Hello, my name is Anya, and I'm going to be Let's Playing Might and Magic 6, Mandate of Heaven. Now to start with, we're starting right at the character creation screen because, quite frankly, the splash screen's sound is really loud, and the very next screen is just a really loud talking voice trying to get you interested in the game by reading a blurb from the manual. It actually is a really good story, but I don't really care to go through the story right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and start building my party. So I like to go with the knight because there are many things in the game that magic just doesn't really do much against, and it pays to have a heavy-hitting, accurate attacker. I'm going to stick with an archer because starting with bow is convenient, and it's nice to have pretty much a secondary knight that has some magical abilities. Also keeping the cleric and the sorcerer as well. The cleric starts with the mind, body, and spirit magics, which are extremely useful for healing and curing of poisons and such and that. They don't really do too much offensively early in the game, but the cleric gets access to mirrored magics later on, which are the most important magics by far. Then the sorcerer gets all the really useful early game spells, which the archer also gets, as well as mirrored magic later, which having two people casting mirrored magic is devastating in the late game. Now, one thing, now to create the characters, you can take away up to 2 points for each category, and you can spend up to 50 bonus points, plus whatever you take away, to a total of 25 on any stat. Now, obviously can't get 25 in each stat, so you had to prioritize. Now, intellect and personality are easy ones because all they actually really do in this game is increase your amount of spell points for spellcasters. Now, since the knight doesn't have any spellcasting, we'll put it down to 5. Personality is the stat that influences spell points if your character has the self magics, body, spirit, and mind. So the archer and the sorcerer don't make use of them at all. Which is kind of funny. Almost nobody in the party has any personality, except for the cleric, who we'll just put right up to 20 right now. Now, same thing goes with intellect. Intellect is for the elemental magic users, and so the cleric doesn't need it. I'll put the sorcerer up to 20. I'm going to put that up to 25 later. But I'll just keep the archer at 15. Because the archer's main use is going to be casting utility spells, because they're not going to be able to cast their spells quite as well as a sorcerer. Because they're not going to have the spell points, and I'm going to be investing their skill points more towards physical things. Now, might obviously is the thing that physical attackers want to use the most. It influences the ability to damage enemies, as well as is actually a stat check for some things like pulling swords out of stones. Very cliche, I know. So we'll want to put the knight. I want to call him a warrior, so I'm not calling him a warrior. I'm going to put him up to 20, and I'll put my archer up to 15 as well. Cleric is going to be using a mace, which is actually a decent weapon, and she will be getting it quite high skill, so I will put her up to 10. And sorcerer is almost never going to be using its physical ability, unless when I'm just bored or don't want to use magic. So I'm going to leave it at 7 because I don't really want to take it away. Endurance is hit points, so obviously characters with more endurance last a bit longer. And I'm pretty sure it only benefits from wearing heavier armors. So having a knight with a lot of endurance is going to last a lot longer than a sorcerer with a lot of endurance. I'll get to spending the points on that in a minute. Now, accuracy is really important in this game. If you're going to be using physical attacks and you don't have very much accuracy, you're going to be missing a lot, and you're just going to get killed by lots of numbers of enemies, because this game likes to throw very large groups at you. I will get to that in a moment. One I want to skip to is actually luck. Now, there's a few different theories on how luck actually works in this game. Some people swear that only the person who opens the chest, their luck is rolled against to determine what is in the chest. I don't think that's the case, because I find that when I'm in max luck, I end up getting the regular old crap, even though the character who's opening it is at 25 luck, which is the maximum. So, what you really need to do is increase the general luck of your characters. I don't know if it's based on an average or a total, but it's not really generally a good idea to lower your character's lucks. Now, what I want to do then is increase everybody's luck to at least 10. Luck also has the ability to reduce magical damage the character receives, I believe. If ever you have a question about what a stat does in this game, you can right-click on it. This game is wonderful for right-clicking. So here it says, luck has a subtle influence throughout the game, but it's most visible in the ability of a character to resist magical attacks and avoid taking as much damage from traps. And traps do get very deadly in this game. That's a nice little aspect. If you go wander into a high level area and go, hey look, a chest, and open it, you could very easily destroy your entire party. And back when computers were slow, that involved a long reload screen. So, let's see here, speed. Speed is very important because if you have a high speed, you can get multiple turns over your enemies. And if you have a low speed, they'll be hitting you repeatedly while you just sit there and not be able to do anything. So one thing I dislike is never having a heal when I need it, so I want to increase my cleric speed. Now I still have 23 points to work with. Accuracy is pretty important. I'm going to leave Zoltan here's accuracy down because again he's going to be using mostly magic as his offense. And his physical is going to be an auxiliary just because of board method. Now, people whose accuracy I actually want up, the most I want up actually is the knight. Because no matter what, the knight's going to be using his accuracy to attack. The only exception to this is mid to late game when you start having the knight cast scrolls and wands. Because some enemies you run into are actually immune to magic, or particularly weak against a specific spell. Late game, the last Earth spell is actually really powerful because it does damage based on the maximum hit points of the enemy. I also want the archer's accuracy up pretty high as well. But the others can languish because they're mostly spellcasters. Late game, they're just going to be nuking everything with mirrored magic anyways. Dragon Breath is the fireball equivalent. So all I really have left to spend on is endurance. So like I said, obviously the knight will benefit the most from it, but I also want to make sure that my cleric survives as much as they can because, well, they're the ones with the healing spells. Now, an alternative setup I could have done to this would be instead of having an archer to grab a druid, but I find that makes the early game a lot more difficult because magic isn't all that useful in the super early game until you can get your hands on some nice spells from later towns. Like Ring of Fire. I love that spell. Okay, so 0 bonus points left. And I think that looks pretty good. So now, to explain this screen a bit more, you obviously have your stats that we just played with here. You have portraits, which you can change easily.
Red. Hey, choose me. Choose me.
Some of them are just kind of ridiculous. Like, that's some really red hair for a guy in a mustache. Yuck. But,
you can count on me. Got it. You ready?
notice that there's actually only 4 female portraits.
How about pick me?
Choose me or
The rest of them are guys.
I'm
So,
ready to. It's me.
4 portraits,
Are you
4
ready?
girls. Why not?
Choose me.
Now, let's see if the names that are automatically generated are any good. Marianne, Sue-Ann, I'll choose her.
Pick me. How about me? How about me?
Sure, April, why not? The only ones that are not randomly generated are the ones that they start with. It's almost as if they had a pre-set up party in mind, which they actually do, because when you click on the quick start, the group you start with is the one you see, and it automatically distributes the points and sets your starting skills. Now, there are 6 classes, but only 4 character slots. The only 2 that you don't see at the start are Paladin and Druid, or Knight and Druid. I switched to Knight right away because Paladin is basically a knight that sacrifices a bit of its knightliness to have self magic, which it's nice to have an extra healer, but they don't get the truly game-changing healing spells in the late game because they don't have access to mirrored magic. And I've seen several playthroughs. The knight is, I find, is much better than the paladin, because in the late game, when you need to be having everyone casting spells, you usually have saved up a few good wands and scrolls by then. The druid, similarly, is really nice in that it has a huge amount of spells it can choose from early in the game, because it has access to both the self magic and elemental magic. But then it languishes late in the game with a whole bunch of spell points and no ability to cast mirrored magic. They're basically just a weaker archer at that point. That can heal. Okay, so now we get to choose our secondary skills. Now, the way the game works in progression is that when you gain enough experience, you go to a gym and you train, and you get doled out some skill points, and you have to spend a bit more skill points than I think you need to spend the level that you're going to in skill points to get the increase. So if you want to increase from 5 to 6, you need to spend 6. Correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a long time since I played this game. But that means specialization is your friend. And if you want to be a good spellcaster, you're going to be spending a lot of skill points. So skill points for extra utility skills usually go to the knight and the archer for them. So, in this case, I will go Perception and Disarm for my archer. Perception gives the nice bonus of giving you a chance to notice a trap before it goes off and avoid most of or all of its damage, which is really nice. It's also used for gaining extra bits of treasure here and there when you need to search things. Disarm is obviously your ability to open chests, and the better you are at disarming, the less likely you will kill your entire party to a bad explosion. Other options that the archer gets to start with are something for melee, because they don't actually start with a melee skill. This is kind of, it would be a waste to grab a melee here because there's a training place right near the beginning of the game that gives you all these options anyways. They can also start with leather, which would be not a great idea. I mean, if you decided that having a more rapid attack is useful, then leather would be a great idea, but generally it's better to go with more armor class, and archers get access to chain. Same with clerics. Now, I should probably pick up the pace a bit and pick up some skills. Let's see. So you start with sword and leather. I wish you could choose different ones to start with, because leather, we will not invest anything in it, so it's not really a boon. Need to grab bow, so I don't have to pay for it right away. And bodybuilding, because it's actually not that easy to find a place to train it. Yeah, what it does is gives you more hit points, and knights can always use more hit points. Especially when you get spells later in the game like Shared Life, which takes all the hit points of your party as a pool and redistributes them. So having everyone near death and the knight at half health hit points, you cast that, and suddenly everybody's back at full health and the knight barely lost any health. Anyways, so cleric. A cleric, for the same reason as with the knight, grabbing meditation, which is the exact same thing but for spell points. And at this point I can grab another ability here. Now I can pick something like repair or identify, but again, this is a spellcaster class that's going to get into the mirrored magics, and they're going to want all their skill points they can get on their spellcasting. With only having token physical abilities like their shield and mace. So I can either pick up shield right now, or spirit, or mind. And I think I'll go with mind. Why not? Or hell. Spirit gives me access to a slightly better healing spell early in the game. Okay, and lastly the sorcerer. Oh, there is a good reason I'm not going to go with identify on any of my characters, and it's because there is a follower you can pick up right at the beginning of the game, as I'll show, that allows you to identify anything you ever come across. It's the best use of 2% of your gold you'll ever find. Now, let's see here. No, don't want to identify. So, now I could right now pick up 2 of the other 3 elemental magics that they don't start with, because they do start with fire magic. But I could also pick up staff, which in the late game, once you skill it up, will give you a defense bonus, which, because the sorcerer is particularly squishy, is really, really useful. All having a dagger really does is increase your ability to do damage, but as we already have very little might and very little accuracy, that's not really that useful. So I think I will pick up staff and water is cold and warm. Earth. Okay, so I think I have everything set up here pretty well. I usually manage to forget something, but oh yes, that's exactly what I forgot. Meditation. Yeah, I could just buy Earth Magic pretty quick. Same with staffs, actually. And Earth Magic comes with a free book. Okay, I think I'm good to go. I used to take 2 minutes to have that loading screen load on my old computer. Okay, so this is the game, and it is a really looks really crowded. But back when I was a kid, this was amazing. The GUI is crowded. I'll give you that. Let me pause here. All right, so what I just did, that little fanfare there, which never changes, it never gets old, really, causes this little action here, and then suddenly everybody stops moving, because this game actually has a hybrid of real-time and turn-based combat, kind of like, what would you call it, Fallout Tactics, but you control it directly. You just have to hit enter. The little hand basically just says it's now your turn, but when it's an hourglass, it's not your turn. You can't move in this version, but in the next game you can move in turn-based combat. Now, there seems to be a lot of wasted space, but actually almost all this wasted space and the GUI gets used up. For instance, you will get little icons around your portraits as you get certain buffs and debuffs. The portraits themselves will change when your character gets a status ailment, like poison. They'll literally turn green. Even when they're drunk, afraid, or just tired. It's pretty neat. There's a lot of depth to this game. This section right here is also a bar for buffs that affect your entire party. And you'll see that as you cast certain spells, they'll also appear. Yeah, see, that doesn't actually appear on the bar, but if you right-click, it will tell you what is active on your party. But other spells, like Wizard Eye, see that eye icon over next to the name is a reference to, I'm pretty sure, there it is. See, the eye actually shows up just above the minimap to let you know your spell's active, which is a pretty cool little effect. Unless you've completely cast every party affecting spell and buff, the interface never really feels that clustered. It just feels a little small because, well, we're used to full screen with HUD overlay. So here you also have certain books to notes, and they end up being really useful later in the game because this game has a lot of crap in it. Here's the auto notes. It's talking about fountains, potion recipes, obelisk hints, seer notes, seer, and Miss Angeles notes. You always end up going back to this one to remember what color barrel does what. Now here you have your food supply, which is important for resting outside of a tavern, which you'll be doing a lot because that's the easiest way to get all your hit points and magic points back. And also, if you push your party to adventure non-stop for, I don't remember how long it was, but most of a day, they will actually get tired. Maps, which is a nice little way to make sure you've explored the whole area of the whole region, because if you go in blind to this game, you will end up tracking down these statues, the obelisks, for hints to a great big treasure in the game, including the 2 very best spells in the game. You'll be doing search grids over the maps. They're pretty fun, actually. But this map feature gives you a good idea of where you have and haven't been in a region. Now, this is a calendar. It's just a quick little thing to let you know what day of the month, what day of the week, and what time, and all that fun stuff. This is actually important for a few quests, believe it or not. If you miss a solstice, I believe it is, you have to wait the entire quarter or half year to get back to it. So, what else we got here? The mini-map, of course, which you can zoom in, and the little dots that shows people. Now, initially the mini-map isn't super useful because it doesn't really show a whole lot. You can see that it's showing the populace, but that's only because I have cast the spell Wizard Eye, which at my level is not too terribly great. The Wizard Eye, yeah, at normal level, it only shows terrain and monsters, whereas later levels allow you to show treasure and show points of interest. Basically items that have a specific use. One of the best spells in the game. Always have it up. In fact, there's a specific person I will be looking for to make sure that that's up all the time at expert level. Let's see here. Your amount of money. Now, this game has a bank system. If you die, all your money goes away, except for the money that's in the bank. That depends almost entirely on how much of a save scummer you are. Because if you don't save scum, then you're going to want to put money in the bank, because you will probably end up dying a few times. But if you have no problem reloading after losing your entire party to some sort of situation, then you don't really have to worry about putting your money in the bank too much. Down here is the cast spell button, so it opens up your spell book, which is really, really useful. There's a lot of really crazy spells in this game. Rest, which, well, you can't rest if the world's stopped. Which is a fun little thing that lets you know what time, day, month, year it is. And then gives you the options to wait until dawn. You click that about 8 times really quick and you will kill your party. They will sit there until they die. Or go insane. The amount of food you require to rest and heal depends actually on what terrain you're on. See how it is too here? If you go on to grass and go to rest, it only costs 1. So keep that in mind. So when you're on barren rock or sand, it usually takes 5, and that will eat your reserve really quickly. And the other 2 buttons, quick reference. It's a good little splash screen to let you know, like, when you're gonna level, when you are ready to level up. The numbers will be green. Your HP, well, you can see right there how your HP is doing, so that's not terribly useful. But other neat things like skill points remaining right there. If you somehow missed a person who's got like 40 skill points sitting around not doing anything useful. And also let you know what the quick spell is real quick, and what technical condition you're in, which you can also find by right-clicking on them, or going right into their character. You can see a whole bunch of stuff. You can right-click on the condition, and I'll show you all their conditions instead of just their most important one. This game got lots of stats, and I could spend lots of time going over all of them. But I'm not going to put you through that. So here you see your skills. Each skill has a normal, expert, and master ability. And by the end of the game, you're going to want all your skills that you've actually invested skill points in to get to the master effect. Because it's usually worth it. Like, let's see here. Normal is any skill that you've at least gotten. Expert requires you to get to level 4 and then find a trainer. And then master requires you to get it to 8 or 10? I think it was 10. As well as usually fulfill some other obligation, like having finished a certain quest. They can be really annoying sometimes. Inventory, it's really nice, nicely implemented paper doll system, actually. You can use an item by just picking up and by clicking on your character. You can also, I believe, just left click it or right click it on the portrait.
Okay.
To equip things, you literally just put it on your paper doll. Let's see here. If you click somewhere off, it will just buzz at you.
Okay.
Ring. So what I usually do, you certainly don't have to do this as well, but I set up everyone to have a specific inventory type. Knight has weapons, Archer has armor, the Cleric has potions and herbs, and then the Sorcerer has Miss Angeles. All the other stuff doesn't fit. I'm right-clicking on them to figure out if they started with an enchantment. I got screwed this time around, but oh well. So these clubs are pretty much useless. 1d3 damage. Now when I was a kid I didn't quite understand this concept, but that's one 3-sided die. So you can get between 1 and 3 damage with that. As opposed to like this longsword, which is 3d3, I can do 3 to 9 damage with it. And the letter. So, if I wanted to, I could subject you to the entire story of this game, which, while good, would be time consuming. I won't do it. I've played this game, at least the early game, so many times, I don't want to do it. I don't want to read through it again. I just remember what to do. So buttons in this section are the stat page, skills, inventory, awards. You'll get lots of them. More of a way to keep track of your own progress, especially if you want to go and look something up. And then exit, which just brings you back to the game. Well, that's the introduction. I'm going to see how well this video recorded and how large it was. Hopefully it wasn't too boring or monotonous, and I'll post another video soon.